On what should have been just another Monday morning at Westfield Elementary, 6-year-old Noah Parker shuffled toward the school entrance with his shoulders hunched and eyes fixed on the ground, his small body already tensing for the inevitable. Taunts and shoves from the third-grade boys who had made him their favorite target since the first day of kindergarten. Nobody noticed the silent tears tracking down his freckled cheeks as he clutched his dinosaur lunchbox. Nobody except Max, the 3-year-old German Shepherd who had been Noah's best friend since the day the rescue center matched the anxious boy with the equally traumatized dog who had survived abandonment and abuse before finding his forever home. What happened next would not only transform Noah's daily school experience, but would also change the entire culture of Westfield Elementary, touching the hearts of teachers, parents, and even the bullies themselves in ways that would ripple through the community for years to come. If you believe in the extraordinary healing power of the bond between children and animals, and how one brave act can transform lives forever, please subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us all that heroes sometimes come with 4 paws and a wagging tail. Noah Parker hadn't always been so quiet and withdrawn. Before kindergarten, he'd been a curious, talkative child with an infectious giggle and endless questions about the world around him. But 18 months of daily torment had gradually stripped away that natural exuberance, leaving behind a shadow of the boy he once was. "Noah, honey, eat your breakfast," Sarah Parker urged, placing a plate of scrambled eggs in front of her son. She exchanged worried glances with her husband Michael across the kitchen table. "You'll need your energy for school today." Noah pushed the eggs around his plate listlessly, his eyes downcast. "I'm not really hungry," he mumbled from his spot. Beneath the table, Max raised his head and nudged Noah's leg gently. The German Shepherd's warm brown eyes seemed to hold more understanding than most humans could muster. Noah reached down to stroke the dog's soft ears, drawing comfort from the simple contact. The Parker family had adopted Max from Second Chance Rescue Center 14 months ago, shortly after Noah had started kindergarten. The timing hadn't been coincidental. Sarah and Michael had noticed their son's growing anxiety and thought a pet might help him feel more secure. What they hadn't anticipated was just how perfect a match Noah and Max would be. "Remember when we first brought Max home?" Michael asked, trying to lighten the mood. He was so scared of everything, even the toaster. A ghost of a smile touched Noah's lips. "He hid under my bed the whole first day." The memory was vivid for all of them. Max had been found abandoned in an empty apartment, severely underweight, and terrified of sudden movements. The rescue center staff believed he'd been abused by his previous owners. They'd warned the Parkers that he might never fully overcome his trauma. But something magical had happened when Noah and Max first locked eyes at the shelter. The trembling dog had approached the small boy cautiously, then leaned his body against Noah's legs as if he'd found his safe harbor in a stormy world. The rescue staff had been amazed. "It's like they recognized something in each other," the adoption counselor had remarked. She hadn't been wrong. From that first day, Noah and Max had been inseparable. They slept together, with Max's large body curled protectively around the boy. They played together in the backyard, Noah's laughter returning during those precious moments. And most importantly, they comforted each other. When Max had nightmares, yes, dogs could have nightmares, the vet had explained, Noah would stroke his fur and whisper reassurances until the dog's whimpers subsided. And when Noah came home from school with that haunted look in his eyes, Max would stay by his side, a constant, loving presence that asked nothing but gave everything. "Time to brush your teeth, buddy," Michael said, glancing at his watch. "We need to leave in 10 minutes?" Noah's face fell, the momentary lightness vanishing. He slid from his chair and trudged toward the bathroom, his shoulders once again curved inward as if warding off invisible blows. Max followed, his nails clicking on the hardwood floors. He always seemed to sense when Noah needed him most. In the Bathroom with the door closed, Noah knelt and wrapped his arms around Max's neck, burying his face in the dog's soft fur. "I don't want to go," he whispered. "Tyler said he has something special planned for me today. That means something bad, Max." The dog whined softly, licking Noah's cheek. "Why do they hate me so much? I never did anything to them." Noah's voice broke on the last word, and Max pressed closer, as if trying to absorb the boy's pain into his own body. This had become their morning ritual, these private moments where Noah could express the fears he kept hidden from his parents. Somehow, it was easier to confess his troubles to Max than to the adults who might try to fix things and potentially make them worse. Last time his mom had noticed a bruise and called the school, Tyler and his friends had been merciless for weeks. Afterward, "Teacher's pet," they had hissed, shoving him harder when no adults were looking. "Baby went crying to mommy." So Noah had learned to stay silent, to hide the evidence of his daily torment, to withdraw into himself where the hurt couldn't reach quite as deeply. Only with Max could he be honest about his fear and pain. There had been a time shortly after Max came to live with them when Noah had started to improve. The dog's unwavering love had begun to rebuild his shattered confidence. He'd even made a friend in his class, a quiet girl named Lily, who shared his interest in dinosaurs. But then Tyler had targeted Lily too, mocking her for playing with the weirdo, and she'd quickly learned that friendship with Noah came at too high a price. Now she avoided him at recess, choosing safety and distance. Noah didn't blame her. Sometimes he wished he could avoid himself too. "Noah?" "5 minutes," Sarah called through the door. "Coming, Mom," he replied, hastily brushing his teeth. Downstairs, as Noah put on his jacket and picked up his backpack, Max grew increasingly agitated. He paced by the door, whining softly, his eyes never leaving Noah. "It's okay, boy," Michael reassured, patting the dog's head. "Noah will be back this afternoon." But Max wasn't comforted. As Noah walked down the driveway toward the car, the dog pressed his nose against the window, his entire body tense with what almost looked like determination. Sarah noticed it too. "He's been doing that a lot lately when Noah leaves for school," she commented, "like he knows something's wrong." Michael shrugged. "Dogs are intuitive. He probably picks up on Noah's anxiety." "Should we be worried?" "Noah keeps saying everything's fine at school, but..." Sarah trailed off, watching their son climb into the car with the weight of the world on his small shoulders. "I'll check in with Mrs. Reynolds at drop-off," Michael promised. "Maybe she's noticed something." As they drove away, Max's plaintive howl followed them down the street, an unmistakable sound of distress that echoed the silent cry in Noah's heart. At school, the day unfolded with the cruel predictability Noah had come to expect. A trip in the hallway that was never accidental, whispered taunts during morning circle, a chocolate milk carton accidentally spilled over his favorite spacebook during lunch, and through it all, Noah remained silent, enduring what he believed. He couldn't change, counting minutes, until he could return home to the one place where he felt safe. To the one friend who never judged or abandoned him, to Max, the only one who truly saw him. What Noah didn't realize was that Max had made a decision that morning, watching his boy leave with fear in his eyes. And German shepherds especially, those with the deep loyalty of a rescued soul, were nothing if not determined when protecting those they loved. Thursday morning dawned bright and full of promise for most children. For Noah, it only represented another day of endurance. But this particular Thursday held special significance. It was Science Project Day, an event Noah had worked on. For 2 full weeks, his project, a meticulously constructed model of the solar system, sat carefully wrapped in a box on the kitchen counter. He'd spent hours painting each planet, getting the colors just right, suspending them with fishing line to show their orbits around a yellow-painted sun. Even Michael, who worked as an engineer, had been impressed by his son's attention to detail. "That's really something, Noah," he'd said, ruffling the boy's hair. "I bet you'll get an A+. Those words had kindled a tiny flame of pride in Noah's chest. Maybe, just maybe, Ms. Reynolds would ask him to present his project to the class. Maybe the other kids would see that he wasn't just a quiet weirdo. Maybe Tyler would finally leave him alone. Max seemed to sense Noah's cautious optimism. The dog pranced around the kitchen with unusual energy, his tail wagging as Noah carefully placed his solar system in a tote bag for transport. "You seem excited." "Today," Sarah commented, pleased to see a spark in her son's eyes. Noah nodded. Ms. Reynolds said the best projects might get displayed at the science fair next month. "That's wonderful, honey. I'm sure yours will be chosen." As they prepared to leave, Max's behavior shifted. Instead of his usual mournful watching, he began pacing by the door, then retrieving his leash from the hook where it hung. "No, Max," Michael said gently. "You can't go to school." The dog dropped the leash at Michael's feet, then picked it up again. His intent unmistakable. "He really wants to come with you today," Sarah said, frowning slightly. "That's new." Noah knelt and hugged the shepherd. "I wish you could come too, boy," he whispered, "but you have to stay home." Max whined, pressing his nose against the tote bag containing the precious science project. "I'll be careful with it," Noah promised, interpreting the gesture as concern. "See you after school?" The drive to Westfield Elementary was filled with Sarah's cheerful chatter about potential science fair preparations. But Noah's earlier excitement had already begun to fade, replaced by the familiar knot of dread in his stomach. As they pulled up to the drop-off zone, he clutched the tote bag tightly. "Have a great day, sweetie," Sarah called as he exited the car. "Can't wait to hear all about Science Project Day." Noah managed a small wave before turning toward the school entrance. He didn't see Tyler immediately, which was something of a relief. Maybe he could get to class and safely deliver his project before, "Hey, Space Boy!" The voice came from behind a nearby tree. Tyler stepped out, flanked by his usual sidekicks, Jason and Mark. At 8 years old, the third graders towered over Noah, their smiles promising nothing good. "What's in the bag?" Tyler demanded, blocking Noah's path. Nothing," Noah stammered, clutching the tote closer. "Just my project." "Let's see it." Tyler reached for the bag, but Noah stepped back. "Please, I need to get to class." Tyler's eyes narrowed. "What, you think you're too good to show us your stupid project?" "No, I just—" "Give it!" Tyler lunged, grabbing the tote's strap and yanking hard. Noah held on desperately, but he was no match for the older boy's strength. The bag tore free from his grasp with such force that it flew from Tyler's hands too, arcing through the air before crashing onto the concrete walkway. The sickening sound of breaking styrofoam and snapping sticks told Noah everything he needed to know. His solar system, his hours of careful work, his source of rare pride, was destroyed. "Oops," Tyler said with mock concern. "Guess you should have just showed us when I asked." Tears welled in Noah's eyes as he knelt beside the tote. He could see fragments of planets peeking through the torn bag, broken orbits, and shattered dreams. "Oh, is the baby going to cry?" Jason taunted. Noah didn't answer. Something inside him, something that had been stretched thin for months, finally snapped. The tears spilled over, but they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of rage, of helplessness, transformed into a desperate fury he'd never felt before. With a choked cry, he launched himself at Tyler, small fists swinging wildly. Surprised by the unexpected attack, Tyler stumbled backward. For one glorious moment, Noah had the satisfaction of seeing fear in his tormentor's eyes. Then reality reasserted itself. Tyler recovered his balance and shoved Noah hard, sending him sprawling next to the remains of his project. "Mr. Johnson." "Over here," Tyler called, his voice suddenly innocent and alarmed. "Noah just attacked me for no reason." The playground monitor hurried over, taking in the scene with confusion. The destroyed project, Noah on the ground, Tyler's convincing expression of bewildered innocence. "He just went crazy and started hitting me," Tyler explained. His friends nodding in solemn agreement. "Is this true, Noah?" Mr. Johnson asked. Noah said nothing, his gaze fixed on a broken piece of Jupiter. What was the point? No one ever believed him anyway. The rest of the day passed in a blur, a silent trip to the principal's office. Mrs. Reynolds's disappointed expression when he couldn't produce his science project. The whispers of classmates who'd heard he'd freaked out on Tyler. The note sent home requesting a parent conference. By the time Sarah arrived to pick him up, Noah felt hollowed out, empty of everything except a bone-deep exhaustion. "How was science project day?" she asked brightly as he climbed into the car. The simple question broke the final dam. "It was horrible," Noah sobbed, the words pouring out between gasping breaths. "Tyler broke my project and then told everyone. I attacked him and nobody believes me and it's not fair and I hate school and I'm never going back." Sarah stared at her son in shock, then pulled the car over and gathered him into her arms. "Oh, Noah," she whispered against his hair, "why didn't you tell us this was happening?" Between hiccuping sobs, the whole story emerged. Not just today's incident, but months of systematic torment. The physical bullying, the isolation, the daily fear. All the things Noah had kept hidden behind his silence. Sarah's expression shifted, from shock to horror to a cold, determined anger. "This ends now," she said, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Your dad and I will fix this, I promise." As they pulled into the driveway, Max was waiting at the window as usual. But this time, when Noah entered the house, the dog didn't greet him with his customary exuberance. Instead, he approached slowly, ears flat against his head, a soft whine escaping his throat. Noah dropped to his knees and buried his face in Max's fur, his tears soaking the shepherd's coat. "You knew," he whispered. "You always knew." Max licked the salty tracks on Noah's cheeks, his warm brown eyes filled with a solemn understanding that transcended words. In that moment, a silent communication passed between boy and dog, a recognition of shared pain, and perhaps a promise of protection yet to come. The meeting with Principal Walters had not gone well. Michael and Sarah sat in their living room that evening, still seething from the administrator's dismissive attitude toward their concerns. "Boys will be boys," Principal Walters had said with a practiced smile. "We can't monitor every interaction. Perhaps Noah needs to develop thicker skin." Michael paced the room, his engineer's mind seeking solutions to a problem that seemed maddeningly resistant to logic. How can they just ignore this? There's a clear pattern of harassment. Sarah scrolled through her phone, researching bullying policies and parents' rights. "We could escalate to the school board," she suggested, "or switch schools entirely." Upstairs, Noah lay on his bed with Max stretched out beside him, the dog's solid warmth providing comfort that words couldn't match. He'd refused dinner, claiming a stomachache that wasn't entirely fabricated. The thought of returning to school tomorrow made his insides twist with dread. "What are we going to do, Max?" he whispered, running his fingers through the shepherd's thick fur. "I can't go back there." Max shifted closer, resting his head on Noah's chest. The steady thump of the dog's heart against his side gradually slowed Noah's own racing pulse, a calming synchronization that had become their nightly ritual. Downstairs, the doorbell rang. Noah tensed, but Max merely pricked his ears, showing no sign of alarm. The dog had an uncanny ability to distinguish between friends and potential threats, a skill that had proven useful since his adoption. Voices drifted up from below, his parents greeting someone, the murmur of introductions, the sound of people settling in the living room. Noah wasn't expecting visitors, especially not this late. Curiosity temporarily overcame his misery. "Stay here, Max," he whispered, slipping out of bed and creeping to the top of the stairs. "Recommended highly by several colleagues," a woman's voice was saying. "I understand your frustration with the school's response, and I'd like to help." Peering through the banister rails, Noah could see a middle-aged woman with curly gray hair and glasses perched on a bright scarf. She had the kind of face that looked like it smiled often. "Noah's always been sensitive," Sarah was explaining, "but this past year has been particularly difficult. The bullying has changed him completely." Trauma often does, the woman replied gently. Children respond to persistent threats in various ways. Withdrawal is very common, especially in empathetic children. Noah leaned forward, straining to hear. Better. She was talking about him, but not in the way adults usually did, not with disappointment or worry, but with understanding. Dr. Landry specializes in childhood anxiety, Michael explained, noticing Noah's presence on the stairs. Noah, would you come down and say hello? Caught eavesdropping, Noah hesitated, then slowly descended the stairs. Max, ignoring the earlier command to stay put, padded silently behind him. Hello, Noah, Dr. Landry said warmly. And who's this handsome fellow? This is Max, Noah answered quietly, drawing confidence from the dog's presence. He's my best friend. I can see that, the therapist smiled, observing how the boy and dog moved in perfect tandem. How long have you had him? 14 months, Sarah supplied. We adopted him from a rescue center. Dr. Landry nodded thoughtfully. And how do you feel when Max is with you, Noah? The question was directed at him with genuine interest, not the fake enthusiasm many adults used when addressing children. Noah considered seriously before answering. Safe, he said finally, and not alone. Max seems very attuned to you, Dr. Landry observed, as the shepherd positioned himself protectively beside Noah's leg. Has he had any special training? Michael shook his head. Just basic obedience. The rescue center told us he'd been abused before they found him. He was terrified of everything, but he bonded with Noah immediately. Sometimes the deepest connections form between souls who recognize each other's pain, Dr. Landry said quietly. May I ask how Max behaves when Noah is distressed? Sarah described how the dog would press against Noah during anxiety attacks, providing deep pressure that seemed to calm the boy when nothing else could. How Max always sensed when Noah was upset, even if he was trying to hide it. How the dog had become increasingly agitated about Noah leaving for school each morning. Dr. Landry listened intently, occasionally making notes. Finally, she set down her pen and addressed Noah directly. Noah, would you feel better if Max could come to school with you? The question seemed so impossible that Noah wasn't sure he'd heard correctly. Max? At school? There's a growing recognition of the benefits of therapy animals in educational settings, Dr. Landry explained, shifting her gaze to include Michael and Sarah, particularly for children experiencing anxiety, trauma, or social difficulties. You mean like a service dog? Michael asked, skepticism evident in his voice. Not exactly. Service dogs are trained for specific physical disabilities. What I'm suggesting is more along the lines of an emotional support animal or therapy dog. Max already performs many of these functions naturally at home. With some additional training and certification, he could potentially accompany Noah to school. Noah's heart began to race, but for once, it wasn't from fear. The mere thought of having Max beside him at school, a constant protector and friend, made the knot in his stomach loosen for the first time in months. Would the school even allow it? Sarah wondered. There would be hurdles, Dr. Landry acknowledged. You'd need proper certification, training, and school board approval. But there are successful precedents, especially in cases where a child's emotional well-being is significantly impacted by school attendance. And you think this could actually help Noah? Michael asked, his initial skepticism giving way to cautious interest. Dr. Landry turned back to Noah, who was absently stroking Max's ears, his expression more animated than his parents had seen in months. What do you think, Noah? Would having Max at school make things easier for you? Noah nodded emphatically. Tyler and his friends wouldn't bother me if Max was there, he said with certainty. Then, more quietly, and even if they did, I wouldn't feel so scared. The presence of a therapy dog can change classroom dynamics in surprising ways, Dr. Landry explained. It's not just about protection. Animals often create bridges between children, opening pathways for positive social interaction. And they provide a focal point outside of oneself for anxious children, reducing self-consciousness. As the adults continued discussing logistics and requirements, Noah sat on the floor beside Max, his mind racing with possibilities. School had become a daily nightmare, a place of constant vigilance and fear. But with Max beside him, everything might be different. "What do you think, boy?" he whispered. "Would you like to come to school with me?" Max's tail thumped against the carpet, his intelligent eyes fixed on Noah's face with unmistakable devotion. Whatever lay ahead, training, certifications, school board meetings, seemed suddenly manageable with Max by his side. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Noah felt something unfamiliar unfurling in his chest. Hope. Upstairs. Later that night, curled against Max's warm body, Noah fell asleep without his usual fears of the coming school day. Instead, he dreamed of walking through Westfield's hallways with his head held high, Max trotting faithfully beside him. In the dream, Tyler and his friends kept their distance, watching with newfound respect as other children gathered around, asking to meet the amazing dog who had come to school. It was just a dream, but as Max snuffled in his sleep, paws twitching with his own canine dreams, it felt like a possibility, a future where school might become something other than a daily exercise in survival, a future where, with Max's help, Noah might finally find his place in the world. The process of transforming Max from beloved pet to certified therapy dog proved more complex than the Parkers had anticipated. Dr. Landry had warned them it wouldn't be simple, but the mountain of requirements, assessments, and training sessions was daunting nonetheless. Temperament evaluation on Tuesday, Sarah announced, updating the family calendar that now overflowed with Max-related appointments. Then the veterinary wellness check on Thursday. Noah sat at the kitchen table, carefully writing Max's important stuff on a special notebook he decorated with paw print stickers. Tracking his dog's progress toward certification had become his primary focus, a welcome distraction from school anxieties. The initial meeting with Principal Walters about the possibility of bringing Max to school had gone predictably poorly. "Absolutely not," the administrator had declared, barely glancing at the documentation Dr. Landry had provided. "Pets have no place in an educational environment. The liability alone makes this impossible." But Sarah, empowered by seeing her son's renewed spirit, had refused to accept this dismissal. Max would not be coming as a pet, she'd explained firmly. He would be a certified therapy dog, specifically trained to support Noah's emotional needs in the school environment. When Principal Walters remained unmoved, Michael had quietly mentioned their ongoing communication with the school board regarding the bullying situation. "We believe this accommodation falls under the district's obligation to provide appropriate educational support for all students," he'd added, his engineer's precision making the implied legal threat clear without being overtly confrontational. Reluctantly, Principal Walters had agreed to a compromise. If the Parkers could get Max fully certified and obtain school board approval, he would allow a 2-week trial period with strict conditions. Now, 3 weeks into the certification process, Max was exceeding everyone's expectations except Noah's. The boy had never doubted his dog's capabilities. "How did the training session go?" Noah asked eagerly as Michael and Max returned from their latest appointment. "Amazing," Michael replied, ruffling Noah's hair. "The trainer said Max is one of the most naturally intuitive dogs she's worked with. He picks up commands almost instantly." Max trotted to Noah's side, sitting attentively as the boy examined the new therapy dog vest he now wore during training sessions. The bright blue garment bore patches identifying him as a therapy dog in training. "Did he like wearing his vest?" Noah asked, noticing how Max sat straighter when wearing it, as if understanding its significance. "She said he seems to recognize that the vest means he's working," Michael explained. "His behavior changes as soon as it goes on. More focused, less playful, exactly what we need for a school environment." The trainer had explained that the vest served as both a visual signal to others and a psychological cue for Max himself. When wearing it, he was on duty with different behavioral expectations than during his off-duty time at home. "Can I practice with him?" Noah asked, eager to be part of the training process. "Absolutely. In fact, Jenna gave us some exercises for you two to work on together." These practice sessions quickly became the highlight of Noah's days. While still attending school, where the situation with Tyler had improved slightly following the parent conferences, he lived for the afternoons, when he and Max would work through their training exercises. "Steady," Noah commanded softly, walking Max through a makeshift obstacle course in the backyard. The shepherd moved carefully at his side, maintaining perfect heel position despite the distractions Michael had deliberately arranged. A ball rolling nearby, Sarah calling from the porch, even the neighbor's cat perched tantalizingly on the fence. "Good boy," Noah praised as Max completed the course flawlessly. The dog's tail wagged briefly at the commendation, but he remained in work mode, focused and attentive. Dr. Landry, who had been observing the session, nodded approvingly. "The bond between them is remarkable," she commented to Sarah. "In some ways, they're training each other." It was true. As Max learned appropriate therapy dog behaviors, Noah was developing increased confidence and assertiveness. Giving commands required a firm, clear voice, something that had previously been challenging for the timid boy. Teaching Max was gradually teaching Noah to believe in himself. Not everything went smoothly, of course. The first meeting with the school board had been tense, with several members expressing reservations about setting a precedent that might lead to a menagerie of emotional support animals in classrooms. "This is not about opening floodgates," Dr. Landry had explained patiently. "This is about providing appropriate support for one child's specific needs. Each case would be evaluated individually based on medical and psychological recommendations." Noah, who had insisted on attending despite his parents' concerns, had surprised everyone by speaking up. "Max helps me be brave," he'd said, his small voice steady despite the intimidating setting. "When he's with me, I can breathe better when I get scared. Please, let him help me at school." The simple, heartfelt plea had shifted the energy in the room. Even the most skeptical board members seemed moved by the earnest request. They'd agreed to review all certification documentation once completed and make a final decision. Now, 6 weeks into the process, that decision point was approaching. Max had passed his temperament evaluation with flying colors, demonstrating exceptional tolerance for unexpected noises, sudden movements, and being handled by strangers, all crucial attributes for a dog that would be surrounded by unpredictable children. The veterinary assessment had confirmed his excellent health and appropriate vaccination status. His basic obedience certification was already in hand, with the specialized therapy dog training nearly complete. "Just the final evaluation next week," Sarah told Noah as they updated his special notebook. "If Max passes, we submit everything to the school board for approval." "He'll pass," Noah said with absolute confidence. "Max is the best dog ever." As if understanding the compliment, Max rested his head on Noah's lap, his expressive eyes conveying bottomless devotion. The journey toward certification had strengthened their already powerful bond, creating a partnership that went beyond the typical child-pet relationship. Even Ms. Reynolds, Noah's teacher, had become an unexpected ally. Initially hesitant about having a dog in her classroom, she'd done her own research after seeing Noah's continued struggles at school. "The evidence supporting therapy animals in educational settings is compelling," she'd told Principal Walters during a staff meeting, presenting articles from educational journals. "I'm willing to make accommodations in my classroom to give this a chance." Her support had been crucial, providing an inside advocate at Westfield when the Parkers sometimes felt they were fighting the entire system alone. As the final evaluation approached, Noah found himself both excited and nervous. Max was ready. He'd proven that through weeks of diligent training. But what if something went wrong? What if the school board said no despite everything? What if Principal Walters found another reason to block their effort? "Don't worry," Sarah reassured him, seeing the familiar worry lines appear on his forehead. "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together." That night, as Noah completed his good luck poster for Max's final evaluation, the shepherd watched attentively, sensing, as always, his boy's emotional state. When Noah's hands trembled slightly with anxiety about the coming test, Max gently placed a paw on his arm, a gesture that had become his way of saying, "I'm here, you're not alone." And in that silent communication lay the true reason they would succeed. Because regardless of certifications, evaluations, or official approvals, Max had already become exactly what Noah needed. Not just a therapy dog, but a steadfast companion who understood him at a level that transcended words. Monday morning arrived with a mix of autumn crispness and nervous anticipation. Noah stood in front of his bedroom mirror, checking his appearance with unusual care. Normally, getting ready for school was an exercise in dread, but today was different. Today, Max would be coming with him. The school board had finally approved their request, though not without imposing numerous conditions. Max would be allowed at Westfield Elementary on a 2-week trial basis. He must wear his therapy dog vest at all times. Noah and Max would need to follow a detailed protocol about bathroom breaks, water access, and appropriate interactions with other students. Principal Walters had made it abundantly clear that any problems would result in immediate termination of the arrangement. None of these stipulations dampened Noah's excitement. As he secured his sneakers with careful double knots, Max sat patiently beside him, already wearing his official therapy dog vest. The shepherd's calm demeanor belied the significance of the day ahead. "Are you ready, Max?" Noah asked, giving the dog's ear a gentle scratch. "This is a big day for both of us." Max responded with a soft woof, his brown eyes solemn, as if understanding the importance of the occasion. Downstairs, Sarah and Michael waited with barely concealed anxiety. They'd spent the weekend reviewing the school's conditions and practicing scenarios with Noah and Max. Now, the moment of truth had arrived. "Remember," Michael reminded as he helped Noah attach Max's special short leash, "if anything goes wrong, anything at all, you call us immediately. We'll come get you both." Noah nodded, though his attention remained focused on Max. The dog had become extraordinarily attuned to Noah's emotional state during their training. Right now, despite Noah's outward excitement, Max clearly sensed his underlying nervousness. The shepherd pressed lightly against the boy's leg, a subtle, reassuring pressure. "All set?" Sarah asked, camera in hand. "First day photo with Max?" The resulting picture captured a moment of transformation. Noah standing straight, with newfound confidence, Max sitting perfectly at his side, both of them ready to face a challenge that would have seemed impossible just weeks before. The arrival at Westfield Elementary caused an immediate stir. Children and parents alike stopped to stare as Noah walked toward the entrance, with Max padding faithfully beside him. Whispers spread across the schoolyard with the speed only elementary school gossip can achieve. "Is that a dog? Why does Noah have a dog? Is that allowed?" Ms. Reynolds met them at the door, her smile genuine, despite the visible nervousness in her eyes. "Good morning, Noah," she greeted warmly. "And this must be Max. Welcome to our class, buddy." Max responded with impeccable manners, sitting calmly when introduced without pulling on his leash or showing undue excitement. The intensive training had prepared him well for this moment. Principal Walters watched from a distance, his expression making it clear he expected, perhaps even hoped for, problems. But Max's professional demeanor offered no immediate cause for concern. "We've prepared a special spot for Max near your desk," Ms. Reynolds explained, leading them into the classroom. "There's a mat where he can rest during lessons." The classroom was still empty of students, allowing Noah and Max to settle in before the morning chaos. The designated area included a small water bowl and the special mat they'd brought from home, already carrying Max's familiar scent. "Perfect," Noah said, his voice stronger than Mrs. Reynolds had ever heard it. "Max, place," he commanded softly, using one of the trained cues. The shepherd immediately moved to the mat and lay down, alert but relaxed. Mrs. Reynolds couldn't hide her impressed expression. "He's very well trained," she observed. "He knows he's working now," Noah explained, pride evident in his voice. "When he wears his vest, he has special job behaviors." The first real test came as other students began filtering into the classroom. Max remained on his mat, watching calmly as excited children entered, many stopping abruptly when they spotted the unexpected visitor. "Class," Mrs. Reynolds announced, once everyone had arrived. "As you can see, we have someone new joining us today. This is Max, a certified therapy dog who will be with Noah for the next 2 weeks. I'd like everyone to listen carefully to some important rules about having a therapy dog in our classroom." She proceeded to explain that Max was working, not a pet for entertainment. Students shouldn't approach Pet or distract him without permission. Max had a special job helping Noah, and everyone needed to respect his space. To Noah's surprise, the class listened attentively, regarding Max with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Even more surprisingly, several children who had never spoken to Noah before approached his desk after Mrs. Reynolds finished her explanation. "Your dog is really cool," said Jamie, a freckled boy who usually sat at the back of the class. "My grandma has a therapy dog that helps with her blood pressure." "Thanks," Noah replied, startled into responding. "Max helps me too, just in a different way." "Can I ask what he helps you with?" Lily asked tentatively. She hadn't spoken directly to Noah since abandoning their friendship months ago. Noah hesitated, uncertain how much to share. "He helps me when I get really nervous or scared," he finally said. "He can tell when I'm getting upset and helps me calm down." Instead of the mockery he half expected, Lily nodded with unexpected understanding. "That's cool. My mom says everyone needs help sometimes, just different kinds." This simple exchange, the longest conversation Noah had experienced with classmates in months, set the tone for the morning. Children who had previously ignored him now found reasons to pass by his desk, ostensibly to glimpse Max, but inevitably engaging Noah in brief conversations. Max, for his part, performed his duties flawlessly. He remained quietly attentive during lessons, responding instantaneously when Noah showed signs of anxiety during a surprise math quiz. Without being cued, the shepherd shifted position to press gently against Noah's leg under the desk, providing the deep pressure that helped regulate the boy's nervous system. By lunchtime, the initial novelty had settled into a buzz of acceptance. Noah led Max through the cafeteria line, the dog walking perfectly at heel, despite the chaotic environment and tempting food smells. They sat at Noah's usual isolated table, but within minutes, something unprecedented occurred. "Can I sit with you guys?" Jamie asked, lunch tray in hand. Noah nodded, surprised but pleased. Within moments, Lily joined them as well, followed by 2 other classmates. Suddenly, Noah's solitary lunch table had become the most popular spot in the cafeteria. The conversation revolved primarily around Max at first. Questions about his training, his age, his favorite toys, but gradually, inevitably, it shifted to include Noah himself. For the first time in his Westfield elementary experience, Noah found himself part of a group engaged in the simple pleasure of lunchtime chatter with peers. Max lay quietly under the table, seemingly unremarkable except for the occasional gentle pressure against Noah's foot, a reminder of his steadfast presence. But his effect on the social dynamics was anything but unremarkable. He had become a bridge between Noah and his classmates, creating connections where isolation had previously reigned. Only one shadow darkened the otherwise successful first day. As Noah and Max left the cafeteria, they encountered Tyler and his friends in the hallway. The older boys stopped abruptly, eyeing the German Shepherd with undisguised wariness. "What's with the dog?" Tyler demanded, his usual aggressive tone muted by obvious caution. "This is Max," Noah replied, surprised by the steadiness in his own voice. "He's my therapy dog." Tyler's eyes narrowed, but he kept a noticeable distance. "Whatever," he muttered finally, motioning for his friends to follow as he gave Max a wide berth. Noah released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Max remained perfectly composed, but Noah noticed how the dog had subtly positioned himself between him and the older boys. Not aggressive, but unmistakably protective. As they returned to class, Noah bent to whisper in Max's ear, "You did great, buddy. Best first day ever." Max's tail wagged once beneath his professional vest, a brief acknowledgement that even while working, he understood the praise and shared in his boy's triumph. Because it was a triumph, Noah realized. Not just surviving a school day, but actively participating in it, not just enduring, but connecting. All because of the extraordinary dog walking steadfastly by his side, transforming him from the weird, quiet kid into the boy with the amazing therapy dog, and in the process, allowing his classmates to finally see him for himself. For the first 3 days of Max's presence at Westfield Elementary, Tyler and his friends maintained their distance. They watched from afar, exchanging whispers and occasional glares, but the shepherd's steady presence seemed to create an invisible boundary they were reluctant to cross. Noah began to relax into a new routine. Mornings, once filled with stomach-churning dread, now held excitement. He and Max arrived at school with matching confidence, Noah standing taller, Max walking precisely at his side in perfect working dog form. Classmates greeted them with genuine warmth, many stopping to ask how Max was doing or whether they could say hello to him during breaks. Ms. Reynolds had established clear protocols for Max interactions during class. Students who completed their work could quietly approach Noah's desk and ask permission to greet the therapy dog. Max would remain in his place position, allowing gentle pats while maintaining his working demeanor. This system had the unexpected benefit of improving classroom behavior and work completion rates as children strive to earn Max time. "He's like the class mascot now," Noah told his parents on Wednesday evening. "Even Ms. Reynolds says everything is calmer when he's there." Sarah and Michael exchanged pleased glances. Their son's transformation was remarkable, talking animatedly about school, mentioning classmates by name, even laughing as he recounted lunchtime conversations. Max had opened doors that had previously seemed permanently closed. But on Thursday, everything changed. Recess had always been Noah's most vulnerable time, an unstructured period with minimal supervision where bullies could operate with relative impunity. With Max beside him, Noah had spent the first 3 days of the week enjoying the playground for the first time since kindergarten, usually surrounded by curious classmates who provided a buffer of protection. Thursday's recess began no differently. Noah and Max headed for a quiet spot under a tree at the playground's edge, where Noah could throw a special silent tennis ball for Max. One of the few times during the school day when the shepherd was allowed brief off-duty play. "Can I try throwing it?" Lily asked, having followed them to their spot. "Sure," Noah agreed, handing her the soft green ball. "Just not too far. He's still technically working." Lily tossed the ball a short distance, delighting in Max's controlled retrieval. The shepherd brought the ball directly back, dropping it at Noah's feet rather than Lily's, a testament to his training and understanding of his primary person. "That's so cool," Lily laughed. "He really knows who his person is." Noah beamed with pride, bending to reward Max with a quick scratch behind the ears. In that moment of distraction, he didn't notice Tyler and his friends approaching until they were directly in front of him. "So this is the famous dog, huh?" Tyler said, his tone deceptively casual. "Doesn't look that special to me." Noah straightened slowly, his heart immediately racing. Max, attuned to Noah's sudden anxiety, moved closer to the boy's side, his posture alert but not aggressive. "We're just playing," Noah said quietly, fighting the urge to run. "Please, leave us alone." Lily backed away slightly, her expression fearful. Everyone knew Tyler's reputation, and she had already experienced the consequences of being associated with Noah once before. "I want to play too," Tyler insisted, reaching for the ball in Noah's hand. "Give it here, weirdo." Noah clutched the ball tighter. "No, it's Max's special ball. He's not supposed to play with other toys at school." Something in Noah's refusal, a backbone that hadn't been present in their previous interactions, seemed to anger Tyler, his face flushed with familiar meanness. "What? You think having a dog makes you tough now?" he sneered, giving Noah a hard shove that sent the smaller boy stumbling backward. What happened next occurred so quickly that later accounts from watching children varied widely. Max didn't bark or growl or show any aggression typical of a protective pet. Instead, he moved with calm precision, positioning his body firmly between Noah and Tyler. The shepherd didn't touch Tyler, didn't bare his teeth, didn't make any threatening moves. He simply stood, tall and immovable, his eyes fixed steadily on the bully with an intensity that conveyed a clear message: no further. Tyler froze, suddenly uncertain. He had expected either fearful compliance from Noah or typical dog aggression from Max, neither of which had materialized. Instead, he faced the unsettling experience of being calmly but unmistakably blocked by a creature who showed neither fear nor anger, only resolute purpose. "What's your stupid dog going to do?" Tyler blustered, trying to maintain his dominance despite his obvious discomfort. "Bite me?" "Max would never bite anyone," Noah said, finding unexpected steadiness in his voice as he regained his balance. "He doesn't need to. He's just protecting me." Max remained statue still, a living barrier between bully and victim. The standoff might have continued indefinitely if not for the unexpected arrival of Mrs. Garcia, the assistant principal, who had been watching the interaction from across the playground. "What's happening here?" she asked, approaching the tense group with purposeful strides. Tyler immediately adopted an innocent expression. "Nothing. I was just looking at Noah's dog." But Mrs. Garcia had seen enough. "That's not what it looked like from where I was standing," she said firmly. "It looked like you pushed Noah and then his dog intervened. Very appropriately, I might add." Tyler's face registered shock at being caught. His friend, sensing trouble, had already begun backing away, suddenly fascinated by a kickball game. On the opposite side of the playground. "Both of you, come with me," Mrs. Garcia instructed. "Noah, bring Max. I think Principal Walters needs to see exactly how your therapy dog responds to provocations." The walk to the administrative offices felt surreal to Noah. Never before had an authority figure actually witnessed Tyler's bullying. Never before had an adult taken immediate action without questioning Noah's account or suggesting he had somehow invited the aggression. In Principal Walters' office, Mrs. Garcia recounted what she had observed, emphasizing Max's controlled, appropriate response. "The dog didn't act aggressively at all," she explained. "He simply placed himself between Noah and Tyler after the push. No barking, no growling, not even raised hackles. Exactly what a properly trained therapy dog should do." Principally, Walters seemed surprisingly deflated by this report. Noah realized with sudden clarity that the administrator had been expecting, perhaps even hoping for, Max to fail this inevitable test. A therapy dog who showed aggression, even defensively, would give him grounds to terminate the arrangement. Immediately, instead, Max had demonstrated exactly why he was so valuable to Noah: protection without escalation, security without confrontation. "I see," Principal Walters said finally, turning to Tyler. "And what do you have to say for yourself, young man?" Tyler stared at his shoes, the bluster gone from his demeanor. "I didn't mean to push him that hard," he muttered unconvincingly. "This is exactly the behavior Noah's parents reported previously," Mrs. Garcia pointed out, her tone making it clear she hadn't forgotten the administration's earlier dismissal of those concerns. Principal Walters cleared his throat uncomfortably. Yes, well, it seems we need to take this matter more seriously. Tyler, we'll be calling your parents immediately. Bullying is expressly prohibited by school policy. As the adults continued discussing appropriate consequences, Noah sat quietly, with Max leaning gently against his leg. The shepherd remained alert but calm, occasionally glancing up at Noah as if checking that he was okay. Noah was more than okay. For the first time since the bullying began, he felt truly seen, validated, believed. And it had taken Max's silent testimony, his wordless but unmistakable confirmation of Noah's reality, to make it happen. "You did everything right, Noah," whispered to Max, his hand finding the soft fur behind the shepherd's ear. "Everything exactly right." Max leaned a fraction harder against Noah's leg, his steady presence communicating what words couldn't. "I am here. You are safe. We face this together." And in that moment, Noah understood that the greatest gift Max had given him wasn't just protection from Tyler. It was the unshakable knowledge that he wasn't facing his challenges alone. Not anymore, and perhaps never again. The dynamics of Westfield Elementary shifted like tectonic plates in the days following Tyler's return to school. The former bully maintained a cautious distance from Noah and Max, neither antagonistic nor friendly, simply observing from afar, with an expression that hovered between curiosity and lingering wariness. Noah, for his part, found himself navigating unfamiliar emotional territory. The absence of Tyler's active harassment brought relief, certainly, but also a strange sense of responsibility. Having glimpsed the pain behind his tormentor's behavior, he could no longer view their relationship through the simple lens of victim and perpetrator. "Tyler keeps watching you and Max," Lily commented during lunch on Tuesday. In the 2 weeks since Max had started accompanying Noah to school, Lily had reclaimed her place as his friend, apparently deciding that the social costs of association were outweighed by the benefits of proximity to the now popular therapy dog. Noah nodded, glancing across the cafeteria where Tyler sat with a diminished entourage. Jason and Mark still flanked him, but the trio had lost the swaggering confidence that once made younger children scramble out of their path. "Mrs. Freeman asked me to stay after class today," Noah said, changing the subject. "She wants to talk about some kind of project." Mrs. Freeman was the school counselor, a kind-faced woman who had begun taking a more active interest in Noah's situation since the playground confrontation. Previously, Noah had been reluctant to engage with her, afraid that adult intervention would only make the bullying worse. With Max's protective presence, however, he'd become more willing to accept support from the school staff. That afternoon, Noah and Max reported to Mrs. Freeman's colorful office as requested. The counselor welcomed them warmly, offering Noah a seat and admiring Max's professional demeanor as he settled into his place position beside the chair. "Thank you for coming, Noah," Mrs. Freeman began. "I have an idea I'd like to discuss with you, a special project that might benefit several students, including yourself." Noah nodded cautiously, one hand resting on Max's reassuring presence beside him. "I've been thinking about how Max has helped create positive changes here at Westfield," the counselor continued. "Not just for you personally, but for our whole community. His presence has sparked important conversations about empathy, support, and how we treat each other." Noah felt a flush of pride at this recognition of Max's impact. The shepherd's ears perked slightly at the mention of his name, though he maintained his working posture. "I'd like to build on that momentum," Mrs. Freeman explained, "with a collaborative project focused on understanding therapy animals and the various ways they help people. And I'm hoping you might be willing to work with another student who has shown interest in this topic." Something in her tone made Noah suspect where this was heading, even before Mrs. Freeman confirmed it. "Specifically, I was thinking you might work with Tyler Bridges." Despite having anticipated the suggestion, Noah still felt his stomach tighten with uncertainty. "Tyler? Why would he want to work with me? Actually, it was Tyler who approached me about learning more about therapy dogs, Mrs. Freeman revealed. He mentioned that his grandmother had one after her stroke and that he was interested in understanding how they're trained. This unexpected information left Noah momentarily speechless. The idea that Tyler had voluntarily expressed interest in something connected to him was so foreign to their established dynamic that he struggled to process it. The project would be structured and supervised, Mrs. Freeman assured him, noting his hesitation. You would meet here in my office twice a week during the last period, which is study hall for both of you. Max would be present, of course, and I would be nearby to provide guidance. Noah looked down at Max, seeking wisdom from his canine companion. The shepherd gazed back with steady brown eyes that somehow conveyed complete confidence in Noah's ability to handle this unexpected challenge. What would we actually do? Noah asked finally. Mrs. Freeman smiled, clearly pleased he was considering the idea. I was thinking you could create an informational presentation about therapy animals, their training, the different types of support they provide, the science behind their effectiveness. You could even incorporate Max as a living example. The final presentation could be shared with other classes to help everyone understand why Max is such an important part of our school community now. The project itself sounded interesting, a chance to share his knowledge about a subject that had become central to his life. The partnership aspect remained daunting, but with Max beside him and Mrs. Freeman supervising, perhaps it wasn't impossible. Okay, Noah agreed tentatively. I'll try. The first project meeting the following day began with awkward silence. Tyler sat stiffly at the small table in Mrs. Freeman's office, his usual bravado nowhere in evidence. Noah kept Max close, the shepherd's presence a security blanket against old anxieties. Why don't we start by brainstorming what you both already know about therapy animals, Mrs. Freeman suggested, providing each boy with a notebook and colorful markers. The initial exchanges were stilted and formal, each contribution offered with careful neutrality. But when the conversation turned specifically to Max, Noah's natural enthusiasm began to overcome his reticence. The vest is really important, he explained, warming to his subject. When Max wears it, he knows he's working, not just being a regular pet. His behavior changes completely. Tyler, who had been mostly listening, leaned forward with unexpected interest. Can I ask him something? He asked. Like, see if he responds. To me? Noah hesitated, then nodded. What did you want to try? Could I maybe give him a command? Just to see if he'd listen to someone besides you? After considering the request, Noah agreed. You can ask him to sit if you want. He knows that one really well. Tyler cleared his throat nervously, then addressed Max directly. Sit, please? The command was hesitant, nothing like the confident tone therapy dogs were trained to respond to. Max looked to Noah for confirmation, seeking guidance from his primary person. It's okay, Noah assured him. You can listen to Tyler. With this permission granted, Max promptly sat, his attention now fixed on Tyler with polite interest. The older boy's face lit up with unexpected delight. He did it! He actually listened to me! Try shake, Noah suggested, finding himself unexpectedly enjoying Tyler's enthusiasm. Hold out your hand when you say it. The progression of simple commands gradually dissolved the tension between the boys. By the end of the session, they were comparing notes on their favorite dog breeds and discussing potential structures for their presentation. Max, sensing the improved atmosphere, had relaxed his vigilant posture, though he remained attentive to Noah's emotional state. Same time Thursday? Tyler asked as they packed up their materials, the question casual, but his expression revealing the importance of the answer. Noah nodded. Yeah, I'll bring some of Max's training videos to show you. As they parted ways in the hallway, Noah realized something significant had shifted. They weren't friends. The history between them carried too much weight for such an immediate transformation. But they had found common ground in their shared interest in Max, a neutral territory where new interactions could potentially take root. Walking home with Max trotting faithfully beside him, Noah considered the strange turns his life had taken. 2 months ago, Tyler Bridges had been the central villain in his daily nightmare. Now they were cautious project partners, their former roles of bully and victim gradually giving way to something more complex, more human. And Max, as always, had been the bridge between worlds, the four-legged ambassador whose silent wisdom somehow encompassed both the boy who had been hurt and the boy who had done the hurting, offering each exactly the connection they needed most. The day after the playground confrontation, Tyler was noticeably absent from school. Rumors circulated among the students he'd been suspended, expelled, transferred to military school, this last one courtesy of Jason's overactive imagination. Noah, however, found himself feeling strangely unsettled rather than relieved by his tormentor's absence. "You're quiet today," Sarah observed as she drove Noah and Max home that afternoon. "Did something happen at school?" Noah stroked Max's fur, gathering his thoughts. "I should be happy Tyler's not there, but I keep thinking about his face in principal, Walter's office. He looked scared." Sarah glanced at her son in the rearview mirror, struck by the empathy in his observation. Despite everything Tyler had put him through, Noah's first instinct was still compassion. "Sometimes people who hurt others are hurting themselves," she said carefully. "That doesn't excuse their behavior, but it might help explain it." That evening, Michael received a phone call that shed unexpected light on the situation. Noah, sitting at the kitchen table completing homework with Max resting faithfully beside his chair, could hear only his father's side of the conversation. "Yes, I understand. Of course, it's a difficult time. We certainly want what's best for all the children involved." When Michael hung up, his expression was complicated, a mixture of lingering anger and reluctant understanding. "That was Mr. Bridges, Tyler's father," he explained to Sarah and Noah. "He'd like to come over tomorrow evening to discuss what happened with Tyler." Noah's pencil froze mid-equation. "Tyler's coming here, to our house?" "Only if you're comfortable with it," Michael assured him quickly. "Apparently, there's more to the situation than we realized. Mr. Bridges thinks it might help for us all to talk together." Max, sensing Noah's sudden tension, shifted position to press his warm weight against the boy's leg, the now familiar gesture of support that had become essential to Noah's emotional regulation. "Will Max be there?" Noah asked, his hand automatically finding the shepherd's reassuring presence. "Of course," Sarah said. "Max is part of our family." That simple affirmation helped Noah find his courage. "Then, okay, they can come." The next evening arrived with a nervous energy pervading the Parker household. Noah changed his shirt twice, uncertain why he felt the need to look nice for people he'd previously only thought of with dread. Max, perhaps picking up on the unusual tension, stayed particularly close to Noah throughout the afternoon. The doorbell rang precisely at 7. Michael opened the door to reveal a tired-looking man in a rumpled work shirt, his hand resting on the shoulder of a subdued Tyler. The usually confident bully looked smaller somehow, his eyes downcast and shoulders hunched, in a posture Noah recognized all too well from his own reflections. "Come in," Michael said, his tone polite but reserved. "We're in the living room." As the visitors entered, Max immediately moved to Noah's side, not in an aggressive stance but in his now familiar protective positioning. Tyler noticed the movement and froze momentarily before his father guided him forward with a gentle nudge. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," Mr. Bridges began. Once everyone was seated, Tyler perched uncomfortably on the edge of the sofa beside him. "I want to start by saying how deeply sorry I am for my son's behavior toward Noah. It's unacceptable, and we're addressing it seriously." Noah watched Tyler, who seemed intensely interested in a loose thread on his jeans, refusing to make eye contact with anyone in the room. Max remained beside Noah's chair, alert but calm. "Tyler has something he needs to say," Mr. Bridges prompted, giving his son an encouraging nod. Tyler swallowed hard, finally raising his eyes to meet Noah's. "I'm sorry for pushing you," he said, the words coming out in a rush. "And for breaking your science project. And for everything else." The apology sounded rehearsed, but not insincere. Noah nodded, unsure how to respond. This contrite version of Tyler was so different from the tormentor, he knew that it was almost like meeting a stranger. Mr. Bridges cleared his throat. "I should explain that we've been going through some difficult changes at home. Tyler's mother and I separated 6 months ago, and the divorce became final last month. It's been challenging for everyone." Sarah's expression softened visibly. "I'm very sorry to hear that." "That's not an excuse for bullying," Mr. Bridges added quickly. "Just context. Tyler has been angry, and unfortunately, he's been taking that anger out on others." He looked at his son with a mixture of concern and disappointment. "We're starting counseling next week to help him find better ways to handle his feelings." Something clicked in Noah's mind. The timing of the divorce proceedings aligned precisely with the escalation of Tyler's bullying behavior. The realization that his tormentor had been navigating his own private pain was both illuminating and uncomfortable, challenging Noah's straightforward understanding of their antagonistic relationship. Small movement caught Noah's attention. Max, who had remained dutifully beside his chair throughout the conversation, suddenly stood and approached Tyler. Everyone watched with collective breath, held as the shepherd calmly walked to the sofa and sat directly in front of the older boy, looking up at him with intelligent, assessing eyes. Tyler tensed, clearly uncertain how to react to the dog's unexpected approach. "What's he doing?" he asked nervously. "I'm not sure," Noah admitted, equally surprised. "He doesn't usually approach people unless I tell him it's okay." Max continued his steady regard of Tyler, neither threatening nor overly friendly, simply present and attentive. After a moment's hesitation, Tyler tentatively extended his hand, palm down, stopping just short of actually touching the dog. Max sniffed the offered hand, then, to everyone's amazement, gently placed his paw on top of it, a gesture he sometimes used with Noah during particularly difficult moments. "He likes you," Noah said, wonder evident in his voice. "Or maybe he understands something about you." Tyler's tough facade cracked slightly. "He's pretty cool," he admitted, cautiously stroking Max's head with his free hand. "How did you train him to do all that stuff at school?" The simple question opened a conversational door. While the adults continued discussing more serious matters, consequences, behavioral expectations, supportive measures for both boys, Noah found himself explaining Max's training to an unexpectedly interested Tyler. "He can sense when I'm getting nervous or scared," Noah explained. "It's like he knows what I'm feeling before I do sometimes." Tyler nodded, continuing to pet Max with growing confidence. "My grandma had a therapy dog after her stroke. He would help her walk and stuff. I didn't know they could help with, feelings and stuff." "They can help with lots of things," Noah said, warming to his favorite subject. "Max helps me be brave." Something vulnerable flickered across Tyler's face. "Being brave is hard sometimes," he said quietly, the simple admission revealing more about his inner struggles than any formal apology could have. As the evening drew to a close, Noah found himself in the strange position of walking his former bully to the door, Max padding faithfully between them. The tension hadn't disappeared entirely. Too much had happened for instant friendship. But something had shifted, a first tentative step toward understanding. "See you at school tomorrow?" Noah asked, surprising himself with the question. Tyler nodded. "Yeah?" He hesitated, then added awkwardly, "Your dog is really awesome." "Thanks," Noah replied. "He's good at seeing the good in people." As Tyler and his father drove away, Noah stood in the doorway with Max pressed reassuringly against his leg, contemplating the evening's unexpected revelations. He had entered the meeting seeing Tyler simply as his tormentor, a one-dimensional villain in his daily struggles. He left it understanding that everyone, Even bullies carried their own invisible burdens. And Max, with his uncanny emotional intelligence, had somehow recognized the pain behind Tyler's aggression, had responded not to the bully's actions, but to the wounded child beneath them. "You really are the smartest dog in the world," Noah whispered, kneeling to hug Max tightly. "And the kindest," Max responded with a gentle lick to Noah's cheek, his eyes reflecting a wisdom beyond human language, the profound understanding that healing often began with the simple act of being truly seen. The transformation at Westfield Elementary continued to unfold like ripples expanding from a stone dropped in still water. What had begun as a personal accommodation for one anxious child had gradually evolved into something that touched every corner of the school community. By the fourth week of Max's presence, the therapy dog had become such an integral part of daily life that students and staff alike found it difficult to remember how things had functioned before his arrival. Principal Walters, who had initially opposed the arrangement with such vehemence, now regularly stopped by Ms. Reynolds' classroom to check on our four-legged staff member, as he had taken to calling Max. "He's doing an administrative walkthrough," Mrs. Reynolds would whisper to her giggling students whenever the principal appeared in the doorway, clearly using Max as an excuse for his visits. More significantly, other teachers had begun requesting Max's presence during particularly stressful classroom activities. Ms. Phillips, the fourth-grade teacher, had asked if Max could attend during standardized testing, noting how his calming presence might benefit several anxious students. Mr. Washington, who taught music, wondered if the therapy dog might join them for the upcoming holiday concert rehearsals, when stage fright often reduced younger performers to tears. "Everyone wants to borrow Max," Noah told his parents, with a mixture of pride and possessiveness. Ms. Reynolds had to make a schedule, so it's fair. The carefully designed visitation system allowed Max to spend short periods in other classrooms while ensuring he remained primarily with Noah. These brief appearances throughout the school had elevated the shepherd's status from novel visitor to beloved mascot, his gentle demeanor and professional work ethic winning admirers among students of all ages. "It's like he's the school's dog. Now, not just mine," Noah observed one evening as he brushed Max's coat, a nightly ritual they both enjoyed. Sarah smiled, recognizing that her son's tone held no resentment, only wonder at how widely his dog's influence had spread. "You're sharing his special gifts with others," she said. "That's a very generous thing to do." Noah considered this as he worked a small tangle from Max's fur. "It makes me feel good when he helps other kids," he admitted, like when Emma stopped crying during her math test because Max put his head on her lap, or when Tyler... He trailed off, still finding it strange to discuss his former tormentor in positive terms. "When Tyler..." "What?" Michael prompted gently. "When he smiles while working." "With Max," Noah finished. "It's a different smile than he used to have. Not mean or anything, just happy." The project partnership between Noah and Tyler had evolved in unexpected ways. What began as a cautious collaboration had gradually developed into something resembling friendship. Not the easy, uncomplicated camaraderie Noah shared with Lily and Jamie, but a more complex relationship built on mutual respect and shared interest in Max. Their presentation on therapy animals had expanded far beyond Mrs. Freeman's initial vision. Tyler, revealing surprising artistic talent, had created detailed posters explaining different types of service and therapy dogs. Noah had compiled video demonstrations of Max's training and abilities. Together, they had researched the science behind animal-assisted therapy, uncovering fascinating studies about how dogs could reduce stress hormones and increase oxytocin in humans. "Did you know scientists can actually measure how much dogs help people feel better?" Tyler had asked during one work session, his voice animated with genuine enthusiasm. "Like, with actual brain chemicals and stuff?" Noah had been equally fascinated. "Max is basically a four-legged medicine cabinet," he'd replied, both boys dissolving into laughter at the image. These moments of connection, though still interspersed with periods of awkwardness and the occasional resurgence of old tensions, represented healing for both children. Noah finding his voice and confidence, Tyler discovering gentler ways to engage with the world. The ripples extended beyond Westfield's immediate community as well. Word of the successful therapy dog program had spread to neighboring schools, prompting inquiries from administrators facing similar challenges with anxious students. Local media, always eager for positive educational stories, had reached out to Principal Walters requesting permission to feature Max and Noah in a human interest piece. "Absolutely not," had been Sarah's immediate response when presented with the request. "Noah's been through enough without becoming some kind of local celebrity." But Noah, to everyone's surprise, had expressed cautious interest in the idea. "If it helps other kids get therapy dogs at their schools, maybe it would be okay," he'd suggested. "Max could be famous for helping people." After careful consideration and numerous assurances about how the story would be handled, the Parkers had agreed to a limited interview with the proviso that Noah would not be questioned about the bullying that had precipitated Max's arrival at Westfield. On the designated morning, a reporter and photographer from the local newspaper arrived at the school, notepad and camera in hand. Noah, wearing his neatest outfit and with Max impeccably groomed beside him, waited in the library with Principal Walters and his parents. "Just remember, you don't have to answer anything that makes you uncomfortable," Sarah reminded him, straightening his collar for the third time. "And if you want to stop at any point, just say so." Noah nodded, surprisingly calm despite the unusual circumstances. Max's steady presence beside him provided the security he needed to face this new challenge with confidence. The interview began with basic questions about Max's training and certification. Noah answered clearly, his initial nervousness giving way to enthusiasm as he explained his dog's special abilities and the positive changes at Westfield since Max's arrival. "Has having a therapy dog at school made a difference for you personally?" the reporter asked, her tone gentle but direct. Noah considered the question carefully before responding. "Max helps me be brave," he said simply. "When he's with me, I remember that I'm not alone, even when things are scary. And now he helps other kids be brave too." The reporter smiled, jotting down the quote. "It sounds like Max has become quite popular around Westfield." "Everyone loves him," Noah agreed, pride evident in his voice. "He makes school better for everybody." As if understanding he was being discussed, Max sat up straighter, his dignified posture the perfect embodiment of a working therapy dog. The photographer captured the moment, boy and dog side by side, matching expressions of quiet confidence on their faces. After the interview concluded and the journalists departed, Principal Walters surprised Noah with a rare display of emotion, kneeling to address him at eye level. "You did wonderfully, Noah," the administrator said, his typically stern demeanor softened with genuine approval. "You represented Westfield Elementary with exceptional maturity. I'm very proud of you." And Max, of course. The unexpected praise brought warmth to Noah's cheeks. "Thank you, sir." "I should be thanking you," Principal Walters replied, glancing at Max with newfound respect. "Your therapy dog has taught this old educator a valuable lesson about thinking outside the box when it comes to supporting our students." As Noah walked back to class with Max trotting faithfully beside him, he marveled at how completely his school experience had transformed. The hallways that once held such terror now felt welcoming. Classmates who had previously ignored him now greeted him by name. Teachers who had once viewed him as the quiet, forgettable child now recognized his unique contributions to the school community. And at the center of it all was Max, the extraordinary dog whose silent wisdom and unfailing love had created ripples of change that continued to spread in ever-widening circles, touching lives in ways no one could have predicted when he first walked through Westfield's doors. The newspaper article about Noah and Max appeared on a Sunday morning in the Community Spotlight section. Michael picked up 3 copies from the local convenience store, proudly displaying the front page with its large photo of Noah and Max, sitting side by side in the school library, matching expressions of dignified composure on their faces. "Our local celebrities," he announced, setting the papers on the breakfast table with a flourish. Noah examined the article with a mixture of embarrassment and pride. Seeing his own words in print felt strange, but the reporter had captured his thoughts accurately, emphasizing Max's positive impact on the entire school rather than focusing on Noah's personal struggles. "Max is the real star," Noah insisted, feeding the shepherd a small piece of bacon under the table, despite his parents' no human food rule, a special celebration exception. The article's publication triggered a flurry of responses. Emails flooded the school's administrative inbox from parents, educators, and therapy dog organizations. Phone calls came from neighboring districts inquiring about Westfield's implementation process. Even the superintendent called Principal Walters to commend the school for its innovative approach to student support. "We've struck a chord," Principal Walters told Noah's parents during a hastily arranged meeting on Monday afternoon. "I'd like to capitalize on this momentum by organizing a special assembly about therapy, animals, and emotional well-being." Sarah and Michael exchanged surprised glances. The principal's enthusiasm represented a complete reversal from his initial resistance to Max's presence. "What exactly did you have in mind?" Michael asked cautiously. "A school-wide event focused on kindness, emotional support, and the various ways therapy animals help people," Principal Walters explained. "We'd invite parents, community members, perhaps representatives from local therapy dog organizations. The centerpiece would be a presentation from Noah and Tyler about their research project." Noah, who had been sitting quietly with Max beside his chair, looked up sharply at this suggestion. "You want me to talk in front of the whole school?" The mere thought sent his heart racing. Classroom presentations were challenging enough. The idea of addressing the entire student body, plus parents and community members, was terrifying. Sensing his distress, Max immediately pressed closer, providing the steady, grounding pressure that helped regulate Noah's anxiety. The gesture wasn't lost on Principal Walters, who nodded toward the shepherd with newfound respect. "That's exactly the kind of thing people need to see," he said. "How Max responds instinctively to emotional needs. You wouldn't need to speak long. Just introduce Max and explain a bit about how he helps you and other students." Sarah, noticing her son's continued apprehension, intervened gently. "Noah should have time to consider this request. Public speaking is difficult for many adults, let alone children." Principal Walters agreed readily, emphasizing that participation would be entirely voluntary. "Just think about it," he suggested to Noah. "No pressure at all." That evening, Noah wrestled with the decision, weighing his fear of public speaking against his desire to help other children who might benefit from therapy dogs in their schools. "What would you do?" he asked his father. As they took Max for his evening walk, Michael considered the question thoughtfully. "When I was your age, I was terrified of speaking in front of groups," he admitted. "I still get nervous before presentations at work." "Really?" Noah was surprised by this revelation. His father always seemed so confident. "Absolutely. But I've learned that sometimes the things that scare us most are worth doing because they matter, not just to us, but to others." Noah mulled this over, absently stroking Max's ears as they walked. "If I talk about Max at the assembly, other schools might get therapy dogs too," he reasoned aloud. "Kids like me could have help." "That's possible," Michael agreed. "But the decision has to be yours, buddy. Mom and I will support you either way." By the time they returned home, Noah had reached his decision. "I'll do it," he told his parents. "Max will be with me, so I won't be alone up there." Preparations for the assembly consumed the next 2 weeks. Noah and Tyler worked diligently on their presentation, refining their research on therapy animals and practicing with Max to demonstrate key points about his training and abilities. Mrs. Reynolds helped them create visual aids and suggested ways to engage the audience. Mrs. Freeman coached them on public speaking techniques, emphasizing the importance of eye contact and clear, measured speech. Despite this support, Noah's anxiety mounted as the assembly date approached. The night before the event, he barely slept, tossing restlessly despite Max's comforting presence. Beside him, "What if I freeze up?" he whispered to the shepherd in the darkness. "What if I forget everything we practiced?" Max responded by inching closer, his warm weight against Noah's side providing silent reassurance. The steady rhythm of the dog's breathing eventually lulled Noah into fitful sleep. Morning arrived with leaden skies threatening rain, a fitting match for Noah's nervous mood. He picked at his breakfast, stomach too knotted for food, while Sarah and Michael exchanged concerned glances across the table. "You can still change your mind," Sarah reminded him gently. "No one would think less of you." Noah shook his head, resolve firming despite his fear. "I want to do this for Max and for other kids who might need a Max of their own." At school, the assembly preparations were in full swing. The gymnasium had been transformed with chairs for visitors, a small stage for speakers, and colorful banners proclaiming "Kindness Matters" and four-legged heroes created by the art classes. Principal Walters bustled about in an uncharacteristically energetic manner, personally checking microphones and sightlines. Noah and Tyler waited in a classroom adjacent to the gym, reviewing their notes one last time. Tyler, normally confident to the point of brashness, looked almost as nervous as Noah felt. "What if they don't listen to us?" he muttered, fidgeting with his note cards. "What if they laugh?" The vulnerability in the question reminded Noah how much had changed between them. Months ago, Tyler had been the source of his deepest school anxieties. Now they shared the same nervous anticipation, equally invested in their joint presentation. "They'll listen," Noah assured him with more confidence than he felt. "Everyone loves Max. They'll want to hear about him." As if confirming this assessment, Max sat perfectly composed between them, therapy vest impeccable, seemingly untroubled by the impending performance. His calm presence anchored both boys, providing a focus beyond their individual nerves. Principal Walters appeared at the door. "Full house out there," he announced, with barely contained excitement. "Time to take your places." Walking toward the gymnasium, Noah felt his legs grow heavier with each step. The murmur of hundreds of voices beyond the doors sounded like crashing waves to his anxiety-heightened senses. His hand tightened on Max's leash, drawing comfort from the shepherd's steady pace beside him. "I can't do this," he whispered, freezing just outside the gym doors. Tyler, walking ahead with Mrs. Freeman, turned back with unexpected understanding in his eyes. "Yes, you can," he said simply. "Max believes in you. I do too." This straightforward encouragement from his former tormentor struck Noah with particular force. If Tyler Bridges believed in him, Tyler, who had once seemed to exist solely to make Noah's life miserable, perhaps he really could face this challenge. Drawing a deep breath, Noah straightened his shoulders and nodded. "Okay, let's go." "The boy won't twist sauce." Applause that greeted them as they walked into the packed gymnasium was deafening. Max, true to his training, remained perfectly composed despite the noise, staying close to Noah's side as they made their way to the stage where Principal Walters waited at the microphone. "Westfield Elementary," the administrator began once the applause subsided. "Today we gather to celebrate something remarkable that has happened in our school community. A transformation that began with one boy and his very special dog, and has grown to touch us all." As Principal Walters continued his introduction, Noah scanned the audience. His parents sat in the front row, faces beaming with pride. Beside them was Dr. Landry, the therapist who had first suggested Max's school. Attendance. Throughout the crowd, Noah recognized classmates, teachers, parents. An entire community gathered to hear what he and Tyler had to share. The realization steadied him. This wasn't about him being in the spotlight. It was about Max, about the difference one dog had made in countless lives, about helping other children find the support they needed. With that purpose in mind, Noah felt his fear begin to recede, replaced by determination to tell their story well. When Principal Walters finally called them forward, Noah stepped to the microphone with Max perfectly healed beside him, ready to find his voice at last. 6 months after the school assembly, Westfield Elementary had transformed into a model for therapy dog programs across the district. What had begun as one anxious child's accommodation had blossomed into a comprehensive initiative promoting emotional well-being and empathy throughout the school community. "Max, wait," Noah called cheerfully as they navigated the morning drop-off rush. The shepherd paused obediently, allowing a kindergartner to pat his head before continuing their journey toward Mrs. Reynolds' classroom. These brief interactions had become routine, students greeting Max like a beloved celebrity, teachers smiling at the dog's dignified progress through the hallways, even custodial staff keeping treats in their pockets for approved reward moments. Max's presence had been woven seamlessly into the fabric of Westfield's daily life. Most remarkable was the change in Noah himself. The formerly withdrawn, anxious child who had once shuffled through these same hallways with downcast eyes now walked with quiet confidence, responding easily to greetings and occasionally initiating conversations. Himself. "Noah, wait up!" Tyler jogged to catch up with them, backpack bouncing against his shoulders. The month since their joint presentation had cemented the unlikely friendship between former bully and victim, their shared experience at the assembly, creating a bond that transcended their complicated history. "Are we still on for the Pinewood Elementary visit tomorrow?" Tyler asked as they fell into step together. Noah nodded. "Yep. Ms. Freeman says their principal is really interested in starting their own therapy dog program." Following the assembly's remarkable success, Noah, Tyler, and Max had become unofficial ambassadors for Westfield's initiative. With careful supervision from school staff and Noah's parents, they occasionally visited neighboring schools to demonstrate Max's abilities and share their experiences. These visits had already inspired 2 other elementary schools to implement similar programs. "Cool," Tyler replied. "I updated our presentation with those new statistics about how therapy dogs improve attendance. Did you see them?" Noah smiled at his friend's enthusiasm. Tyler's redemption arc had been one of the most unexpected outcomes of Max's arrival at Westfield. The former bully had channeled his natural leadership abilities into positive avenues, becoming a passionate advocate for therapy animals and emotional support resources in schools. As they entered Mrs. Reynolds' classroom, several classmates immediately approached to greet Max, following the established protocol of asking Noah's permission first. These interactions, once overwhelming for the anxious boy, now felt natural and even enjoyable. "Good morning, Noah," Mrs. Reynolds called from her desk. "Max is visiting the 2nd grade reading circle this afternoon, remember?" The therapy dog's schedule had expanded considerably over the months. While he remained primarily with Noah, Max now spent short periods each day working with other students who benefited from his calming presence, children with anxiety, learning differences, or emotional challenges. "I remember," Noah confirmed. "Lily's going to walk him down after lunch." This arrangement, allowing trusted classmates to occasionally handle Max during his therapy visits to other rooms, had been another step in Noah's growth. Sharing his beloved companion required tremendous trust, but had ultimately strengthened his connections with peers who took the responsibility seriously. The morning proceeded with comfortable routine: math lesson, science experiment, language arts. Normal educational activities made extraordinary only by the presence of the German Shepherd resting quietly beside Noah's desk, occasionally responding to a classmate's whispered greeting or a teacher's appreciative glance. At lunch, Noah sat at his usual table, now crowded with friends, not just those drawn initially by Max's presence, but children who had discovered they genuinely enjoyed Noah's thoughtful nature and dry humor once they took the time to know him. "Are you nervous about the interview tomorrow?" Jamie asked between bites of sandwich. Noah considered the question. Local success had brought wider attention to Westfield's program, culminating in an invitation from a regional news station to feature Max in a segment about innovative educational approaches. Noah and his parents had agreed to a carefully structured interview, viewing it as an opportunity to help other anxious children. "A little," Noah admitted, "but Max will be there, so it'll be okay." The simple statement encapsulated the transformation that had occurred. Anxiety hadn't disappeared from Noah's life. It remained a companion he would likely always manage. But Max's presence provided the security needed to face challenges rather than avoid them. After school, Noah and Max headed to their newest activity, a special training program where Max was learning advanced therapy dog skills, while Noah developed his abilities as a handler. The class represented a significant milestone in their journey, officially recognizing them as a therapy team rather than simply a boy and his supported pet. "Excellent work with the redirection cue," the instructor praised as Max smoothly shifted position to provide pressure against Noah's leg. "You two have a natural communication that can't be taught." Driving home afterward, Sarah glanced in the rearview mirror at her son and his dog, both looking contentedly out the window. "I received a call from Riverdale Elementary today," she mentioned casually. "They're interested in having you and Max visit next month." Noah nodded, unsurprised by the continuing requests. The newspaper article had sparked local interest, but the television segment scheduled to air next week would likely bring even more attention to their story. "Do you ever get tired of sharing Max with everyone?" Sarah asked, curious about her son's perspective on their increasingly public role. Noah thought carefully before answering, his hand absently stroking Max's fur. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But then I remember how scared I used to be all the time and how Max changed everything. If he can help other kids feel safe too, we should do it." The mature response reminded Sarah how much her son had grown, not just in confidence, but in empathy and understanding. The painful experience of bullying, transformed through Max's intervention, had ultimately given Noah unique insight into others' struggles. At home, the evening routine unfolded with comfortable familiarity. Dinner with animated conversation about the day's events. Homework at the kitchen table with Max lying across Noah's feet. A family walk around the neighborhood, Max's therapy vest replaced by his regular collar to signal off-duty time. Later, as Noah prepared for bed, he found his father sitting on the edge of his mattress, an unusually serious expression on his face. "What's up, Dad?" Noah asked, climbing under the covers as Max settled into his customary position at the foot of the bed. Michael smiled, reaching out to ruffle his son's hair. "I was just thinking about how much has changed in the past 6 months. Do you ever think about that?" Noah nodded. "All the time." "I'm really proud of you, buddy," Michael continued. "Not just for being brave at the assembly or doing the interviews, but for how you've handled everything, even making friends with Tyler after all he put you through." Noah glanced at Max, who watched the conversation with intelligent eyes. "Max taught me that," he said simply, "about second chances and stuff. He got a second chance at the rescue center, and it changed his whole life. Tyler needed one too." The wisdom in the observation left Michael momentarily speechless. Reaching down to pat Max's head, he finally responded, "You know, I think Max might have taught all of us something important." After his father left, Noah lay awake in the darkness, contemplating the journey that had brought them to this point. From the terrified child who once cried silently on the way to school to becoming an ambassador for therapy dog programs, from isolated victim to having a circle of genuine friends. From seeing Tyler as a tormentor to valuing him as a teammate with his own struggles and strengths. Max shifted position, moving up from the foot of the bed to curl against Noah's side, his warm weight providing the security that had become essential to peaceful sleep. "We did good, didn't we, boy?" Noah whispered, burying his fingers in the shepherd's thick fur. Max responded with a contented sigh. His mission? To protect, to comfort, to connect, continuing even as they drifted toward sleep. In the quiet darkness, boy and dog remained perfectly attuned to each other, their unlikely partnership having rippled outward to transform not just their own lives, but an entire community. The once broken rescue dog and the once bullied child had healed each other, and in doing so had discovered their shared purpose, showing others that sometimes heroes come with 4 paws and that even the smallest voices can create profound change when given the courage to speak.